Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to tackle an amp that I've had for a while. It was gifted to me by my friend Alex Fink. Shout out Alex, he's an awesome guitar tech and builder. But he gave this to me because he didn't necessarily want to be carting it around anymore. It's a huge amp. And I have so far carted it to my third shop. So I figured it was about time to open it up and see what's going on with it. So without further ado, I present to you my AIMS. It is a big boy. We've got two channels. Both channels have volume and tone controls. We've got bright switch, reverb, and channel 2 has tremolo. And we also have a master volume. And here's a look at the back. First thing I want to point out is this power cord will need to be replaced. It is 3-pronged, but I just do not like these repair ends. They're kind of sketchy. So we have, let's see, our preamp tubes. We've got a couple 12AX7s, 12AT, 12AX, 12AT. So this is kind of a common preamp tube layout for amps that have reverb and tremolo. Typically, these two tubes are each channel's first gain stage. And then we have reverb tubes, tremolo, phase inverter, and then output tubes. Here we have two Ruby 6550s. This one looks kind of cooked. You can just tell visually by the darkness of the print on there, whereas the other one has like the red Ruby print. This kind of has a dark print. So the model of this AIMS is a VTG-105. It looks like they were manufactured in Phoenix, Arizona. So now that we've had a look at the front and back panels, I'm going to remove this back panel here and see what speakers we're working with. All right, so here's a shot of the 4 10-inch speakers that are in this amp. Looks like we have 2 Eminence speakers that look like they were probably original to the amp. The date code shows 67, which is the Eminence code. The next number is 72, so that is the year 1972, week 36. Looks like this one was also from the year 1972, but week 35. So they were made just a week apart. These two blue speakers, I'm not entirely sure what these are. They're also Alnico speakers, but they're unmarked. So it looks like these speakers are 8 ohms. So we have a little bit of a series parallel wiring scheme going on here. Basically, it appears that these speakers are in parallel, these speakers are in parallel, series. So 2 8-ohm speakers in parallel creates 4 ohms here, 4 ohms here. 2 4-ohm loads connected in series is 8 ohms. The amp is looking for 8 ohms. So yeah, that's how this cabinet is wired. All right, so I've put the back on just for now because I want to remove the chassis and evaluate what's going on under there. All right, so the screw on this side is kind of stripped on the head, so I'm just gonna go in with my socket to remove this nut here. Might as well just go in on the other side doing the same thing. All right, well, it looks like this thing might come out the back, or it does come out the front.
Unless there's screws on the front.
Oh, there are. So, you know, after a little bit of struggling, we find some screws on the front, so I'm going to take those out too. Okay, so yeah, it does come out the front. All right, so from the back here, we can see the tube layout, and we can see all of the preamp controls, the volume and tone, reverb and tremolo, etc. back here. Here's the reverb tank. Looks like we got a broken wire here, so the reverb probably doesn't work. But let's come up to the other side here. All right, so we have a lot of the original Beaver capacitors. These three are 20 microfarad at 600. None of them are like physically leaking, but this 40 microfarad one is physically leaking, and so is this bias cap. So I want to replace these electrolytics. I'll probably also end up replacing these bypass caps. They're probably all like around 25 microfarad at 25 volts. And the last thing that I noticed is this screen resistor is burnt. You can see that burn mark right in the middle, and also the lettering is darkened, whereas this one is red. And I'm just going to assume that this resistor is affiliated with the burnt tube that I had seen, which it is. This tube is pretty burnt looking. So I'm going to want to replace those tubes and resistors as well, but I don't have any of those tubes in stock, so let me just add it to my parts list. All right, so while I already kind of know what parts I'm going to need to replace and that I'm going to need to replace some parts, I'm going to be a little chaotic and test the amp as is, just because I want to get a baseline of how it sounds. But first, I should probably take off my rings. A lot of you were not stoked that I was wearing metal jewelry while I was fixing amps, and I agree that's probably a pretty basic safety concern, so I'm going to be better about that now. Oh! Okay, so that is what bad capacitors sound like. I actually just tested this amp like 10 minutes ago and it wasn't humming like that, so it's obvious the caps need to be changed. Now that they're seeing some voltage, they have decided that they're done. So when I tested this amp earlier, both channels worked and sounded good, but it was pretty quiet, like I said, because one of those tubes is dead. But the tremolo works and it sounds really good. The reverb doesn't work, obviously. We saw that broken wire. So I'll either fix that wire or replace the tank, whichever makes more sense. But I'm going to go ahead and order the caps and those 6550s that I needed. And then part 2 will be a video of me doing the actual work to restore this amp and then test it for you. I'm really excited to do this and to have this amp working because I've had it for a while and it's about time that I get it going. It's one of those amps that will probably sound great with guitar, steel, bass, keys, Rhodes, all of the above. So I'm excited to get it working. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you for part 2 of this video.